Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Today we are going to speak about Lord Balaram. And usually we speak a day before or on the day of the appearance day, and then we speak afterwards for many, many days afterwards, sometimes for weeks. So I thought, why not start before instead of after? What do you think, Tanya? Good idea. Let's send that way. We're getting ready. Okay. Jai Balaram. Baladev Prabhu Ki Jai. Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jai Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Vijana Vallabha Girivardhari Vijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Wait. Yashodanandana Bhajajananjana Jasodhanandana Brajajananjana Jasodhanandana Brajajananjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari. Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Jasodhanandana Brajajananjana Jasodhanandana Brajajananjana Shodhanandana Brajajananjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Jashodanandana Brajajananjana Jashodanandana Brajajananjana Jashodanandana Brajajananjana Jashodanandana Brajajananjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Radha Madhava Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Don't go away. Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Go Premanandi, Hare Hare Bol. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Now I have to move my keyboard. Give me a moment to get things back to normal. It's a little bit of a problem to set it up, and often I'm too lazy to set it up. Cables and cords everywhere. Okay, so we're going to speak about Lord Balaram. We're going to read some things Prabhupada has said about Lord Balaram. And Lord Balaram's appearance day is in about 3 weeks. So by the time his appearance day comes, you're going to be well on your way to Balaram Bliss. You're going to know everything there is to know about Balaram, at least everything you could know within a few weeks. Okay. I have to set my computer up so that we can read. So let me do that now. Okay, we're almost ready. Hare Krishna. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Shamini Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvise Sasanyamadi Paschajit Satarini. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, who has kindly decided that he should take compassion upon us, those with no qualification. And he came to the West, destroyed our impersonalism, and delivered us. And now has asked us to help him deliver others. Hare Krishna. Oh, Nityananda. So this first quotation is from Krishna book, chapter 2. The chapter is entitled Prayers by the Demigods for Lord Krishna in the Womb. In the Upanishads, it is stated, Nayam Atma Bala Hinena Labhya. I had sent this to Radhapriya, but Radhapriya is not here. I don't, on the computer that I'm using to broadcast, I don't even have a word on it. So if Tanya, if you want to find it and put it on chat, that'd actually be easier for me also to read. So this is chapter 2 of Krishna book. It begins with the statement in the Upanishads. Jyotirmaya almost got fired. She wanted to dance in the kirtan, but she was at her office. She controlled herself. Sometimes ecstasy has to be controlled in public settings. Yes. In the Upanishads, it is stated, Nayam Atma Balahinena Labhya. The purport is that one cannot attain the supreme platform of self-realization without being sufficiently favored by Balaram. Okay, there it is. Wow. It's in the chat if you want to read it. It even has the diacritics. Amazing. The purport, Bala does not mean physical strength. No one can attain spiritual perfection by physical strength. One must have the spiritual strength which is infused by Balaram or Sankarshan. Ananta or Sesha is the power which sustains all the planets in their different positions. Materially, this sustaining power is known as the law of gravitation, but actually, it is the display of the potency of Sankarshan. So, gravity is actually Lord Balaram's expansion as Sankarshan. He's the personification of gravity. Balaram or Sankarshan is spiritual power or the original spiritual master. Therefore, Lord Nityananda Prabhu, who is also the incarnation of Balaram, is the original spiritual master. And the spiritual master is the representative of Balaram, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who supplies spiritual strength. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is confirmed that the spiritual master is a manifestation of the mercy of Krishna. Oops. Okay. Well, we got too much there. Yeah, it just ends there, right? Yeah, that the quote ends there. The next one we don't need. I mean, you can read the next quote if you want, but it's not. We're going to talk about the first quote. So, in this purport, although Prabhupada talks about Balaram as being gravity himself, the verse he quoted is that the without the strength of Balaram, one cannot attain self-realization. That's the spiritual power of Balaram. And so then Prabhupada goes on to say that without being favored by the mercy of Balaram, one can't make spiritual advancement. And then Prabhupada goes on to say that, well, Balaram is a spiritual master, the original spiritual master, and all spiritual masters represent him. So that means without the mercy of the spiritual master, one can't make advancement. And the spiritual master represents the mercy of Nityananda, samsara dava nalalila loka. He's just giving mercy. Spiritual master is like the postman giving mercy. Mercy is coming from Balaram. And so Balaram is the power. Bala means power. Balaram is our power. And that power is manifesting down through disciplic succession. So the spiritual master represents the power of Balaram. And sometimes Prabhupada gives the example. You have, I don't know if you've ever seen this. You see this in cartoons a lot, where somebody's getting electrocuted. Some cartoon character is getting electrocuted. Have you seen that? And then he touches somebody else, and they get electrocuted, right? So that's the idea. You're a conduit for the electricity. You know conduit? Anuradha, you know what conduit is? It's like, it's a cord. It's like copper is a conduit. So it all starts with Balaram. And we pray to Balaram for strength. We pray to Nityananda for strength. And when Balaram manifests as Nityananda, just as when Lord Krishna, Radha and Krishna manifest as Chaitanya, then the qualification to get the strength becomes less, and the distribution becomes wider, therefore wider. So the strength of Balaram is given through Nityananda more readily, more easily to more people. But still, the basic principle is that we are being held by the mercy of the spiritual master. That's what's sustaining us. We're not being sustained by our own strength, although it sometimes seems like we're being sustained by our own strength, because without our efforts to follow sadhana, we fall apart. So it looks like we're doing something, but actually, it's kind of like playing the slot machines. I don't know. You have slot machines in Croatia? You put in $1 and it comes back $100 or 500, or after you get $100 back after you put in like $500 coins. Yeah, that usually works like that. But using the example of you put in $1 and you get back 100. So mercy is like that. It's not proportionate to your effort. So your efforts, the reason our efforts seem like they're doing something is because the efforts are qualifying us for mercy. And the more we make the effort, the more we get mercy. But we're getting back more than we put out. So we put $1 of effort, we get back $10, $100. So that's how it works. So the point is, our own efforts are insufficient. That's the point. I think we discussed that in, I don't know if you were in the class. We discussed that in another class. I think it was a Bhagavatam class for Brazil. It was a class about Mayavad. And the whole point of the purport was, on their own, without the power of bhakti and the mercy of Guru, they can only go so far. And they don't stay. They can get liberated, but they don't stay there. As far as they can go is monistic liberation, and they don't stay. They don't have the strength to stay. So it's quite interesting, because there's so many great sadhus in India. And we don't really think of ourselves as great sadhus. Most of us think of ourselves as just fortunate to have come in contact with bhakti, but in and of ourselves, we don't have a great history of being saints. Or some of these great devotees, great sadhus, maybe were sadhus when they were kids, or if not, maybe became great sadhus, but Bhagavatam says that only the devotee can control their senses, that these great sadhus can't. So we don't think of ourselves as great sadhus, but we think of ourselves as great recipients of mercy. And because we have mercy, we're able to do all this that normally nobody can do. This great level of sense control, or the great realizations we have. We have sometimes many realizations. So we're able to do all this, not by our effort, but because Nityananda's power is so great. And when you have his power, then his power works through you as if it were you, but it's not you. And this is why we remain humble, because we realize, well, it's like, you take a pill that gives you energy. It's chock full of caffeine or whatever, right? And now you have a lot of energy. And an hour before you were completely energetic. So if you think, oh, I'm so healthy, I have so much energy, just look at me, I'm 100 years old and I can run around all day. Well, it's the mercy of the pill that you took. It's not your own energy. So you always have to remember that. And that's what it means to be humble. That I may become very spiritually advanced, factually, objectively, but that advancement is that energy of Balaram, the energy of the Guru coming through me. So I have strength, I have realization, which is coming through me, but it's not until I'm completely Krishna conscious is it fully manifested as me. But even in that state, one will always feel dependent on the mercy of the Guru. So our strength comes from mercy. That mercy initiates with Balaram. He's the original source of strength. Samchara dhava nalalila loka. Tanaya karunya ganaganatam. The spiritual master takes the water of mercy and like a cloud distributes it. So the cloud gets the water from the ocean. They don't make water. They evaporate water. So the Guru is evaporating mercy, then showering it down. And you get the mercy, and then it's your duty to distribute it. And then as you distribute it, then you get more mercy. So that's why we say we're all mercy cases. Simply a mercy case, no qualification. Well, qualification is sincerity. That's the idea. Okay, Hare Krishna. Okay, we're going to read the next one. The next one is Adi Lila, chapter 1, text 44, purport. Adi Lila, chapter 1, text 44, purport. And it begins, Lord Nityananda. This is actually only one sentence. So, by the time you write it down, I'll have read it. Anyway, I'll read it. It's short. And then, actually, why don't I just send you this document? That would be better, right? Do I have your email, Tanya? We'll find out in a second. Yep. I will send you this document. Okay, it's been sent. Now give Anuradha gets a break. Rest her brain after the... Okay, so you got it? Tanya has it. All right. We'll wait for her to put it up. It's the second one, Adi Lila, chapter 1, text 44. Dun, 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 dun. All right, I'll read it. It's short. You can memorize it. Lord Nityananda, who is Balaram himself, the first direct manifestation or expansion of Krishna, is the original spiritual master. He helps Lord Krishna in his pastimes. and he is a servant of the Lord. So this is important to note here. Oh, Anuradha wants it as well. Tanya, can you send it to Anuradha? Do you have her? You don't? Okay, I'll send it to you, Anuradha. So every time I send it, I have to I have to close it. Okay, hold on. I did my duty. I sent it to Radhapriya, but I didn't know she starts working now. Okay, look at this technology. It's just amazing, right? Sending things across the ocean in like a few seconds. And we all become slaves of the technology. That's the problem. I have to tell you something amazing. I saw an interview with like the people who originally worked on Facebook and Google and Twitter, designing it so people would want to use it all the time, just figuring out how people would use it, figuring out how these companies would make money, basically figuring out how people would get addicted to the phones. All the different social media platforms, they interviewed these. And many of them said that even though they created the apps, they became addicted to the apps. They couldn't even put their phones down. And those apps were created to get us addicted. And they created the app to get people addicted, and they got addicted to their own creation. Is that amazing? All you can say to that is Hare Krishna. Okay, so this quote we read, which is on the chat, says right at 9:55, it was put up. This quote says that Lord Balaram, he's always helping Krishna. And so whatever he's doing is in service. Even when he does his Rasa Lila, it's in service. That's his mood. He's never the enjoyer. Even though it may appear that way. He's never the enjoyer. That's the idea. So and this is important also because, of course, all the pure devotees are in this mood. And so I'm sure you must have questioned or become confused when you read some pastime where the gopis say, I want to kiss Krishna. Like, well, I thought they were free of desire. Why do they want to kiss Krishna? So the understanding, baseline understanding, before you understand anything more, the baseline understanding is that whatever they do for service to Krishna. Like they wouldn't want to do something if it didn't give Krishna pleasure. So it might look like, I want to kiss someone because it makes me feel good. They don't think like that. So when they want to kiss Krishna or whatever they want to do, it's service because they know that's what Krishna wants and they know that will give him pleasure. And they get pleasure only when they make Krishna happy. Our problem is we can get pleasure without making Krishna happy. That's our problem. But the pure devotees can't experience pleasure without making Krishna happy. That's not possible. Does that make sense? Like, I kiss a beautiful girl. I kiss a handsome guy. That will make me happy. Right? Sujan, make you happy? Embarrass him. He doesn't kiss girls. He's a brahmachari. Sometimes Krishna would play as a brahmachari. Yeah. So I can't talk to women. He did some lila. I'm brahmachari. I can't talk to women. Or something we want to do that gives us pleasure. And then we see in the lila that it looks like the devotees doing the same thing that we would do to get pleasure. But we always have to understand they do not experience pleasure by doing something for themselves. They can't experience pleasure doing something for themselves. They can only experience it by giving Krishna pleasure. Our position is a little bit different, that unfortunately we can experience pleasure by doing something Go shopping. Oh, that was great. We went shopping today. I had so much fun. I bought a new this and a new that. That's our problem, right? What'd you buy for Krishna? Oh, was I supposed to buy something? Yeah. Well, I didn't buy anything. I bought for myself. Yeah. So even when Balaram is engaged in his Rasa Lila, it is said, or it is explained, that it's actually helping prepare Krishna for his Rasa Lila. So he's entirely in that mood, although he's the older brother. His whole position is servant. And then we learn that Balaram, as he expands into things, actual things, objects, which Krishna uses in seva. So Balaram is serving Krishna by expanding into a seat for Krishna, a this or that for Krishna. That's Balaram expanding. Of course, in the spiritual world, everything is alive. So there's no matter there. So it's Balaram expanding into different paraphernalia. And that's all for the service of Krishna. So that's what that quote meant. Okay, so now we're going to read some more. I guess I don't need my computer anymore. I mean, I do need my computer. I just don't need it now. I thought someone's going to come over and take it because I said I don't need it anymore. You ever study Shastra and you misunderstand it like that? Well, you said you don't need your computer, so I just came and took it. Yeah, so when you read something in Shastra, you have to understand it contextually and according to the desire and understanding of the person who said it, and understand Sanskrit and how words are used. So because if you didn't know how words are used in English, you'd think, I'm throwing away my computer. Okay, where is this quote from? Oh, I do need, that's a question, right? Or a comment. Shujan, what did you put there? Is that a quotation?
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. I just copy pasted the context which you told of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela,
Oh yeah.
chapter 1, text 40.
We're just quoting part of it, not all of it.
Okay, sorry for that.
Tanya has it all under control because I sent her that.
Sorry for that.
Forgiven this time. Watch out next time. He's so anxious to serve that that was like the Prabhupada said, 3 kinds of servants. First class will do it without asking. Second class will do it with asking. The third class will go run to do it and he'll forget what he was told to do. So sure, John's a first class servant, but he got a little too ahead of us. Okay, so the next quote is from a lecture. This is Bhuvaneshwar, 1977. The spiritual strength is Balaram. Bala means strength. Therefore, we have to take shelter of the lotus feet of Balaram. Guru Tattva. Balaram means Guru Tattva. Balaram represents Guru. Yasya Prashada Bhagavat Prashada. Oh, this is so nice. I love to read something that I just said before, that Prabhupada said. That makes me feel like something sunk in there. If we want to understand Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, if we want to understand Krishna, then we must take shelter of Balaram. I am Atma Balahinena Labhya. This Balahinena Labhya, this Vedic injunction means without the mercy of Balaram, you cannot understand, you cannot realize your spiritual identification. So, this is also good because you see, we have this philosophy, we're not the body, and some people will say, you have the philosophy, you're not the body, but I never become so bodily conscious until I joined ISKCON. Ever hear anybody say that? Yeah. I didn't realize I was a woman until everybody in ISKCON told me I was, and I had all these defects. Before that, I think I was self-realized before I joined ISKCON. And now I realize I'm the body. Yeah. So, of course, we're just joking, but there's a balance between realizing I'm not the body and dealing with the body. So what I like about this is what's being said is, without the mercy of Balaram, you can't, what did Prabhupada say? Mercy of Balaram, you cannot understand, you cannot realize your spiritual identification. Atma, that verse, Atma, Lab, Balahinena, Atma. Oh, why do I forget it? Bad brain. Hinena. Nayam Atma. Yeah, you can't realize yourself without achieving the mercy of Balaram. So what's being said here is like the mercy is everything, not the body. So you could have a really fantastic, intelligent body, right? A male body. Don't you ladies go to sleep every night thinking, oh, I wish I had a male body and then I'd be smart? No. Is that what happens every night? You go, I'm glad I don't have a male body. Those guys are gross. Is that what you think? Yeah. Yeah, that's what we think. Okay. If the guys in ISKCON really knew what the women thought of them, they'd become a little more humble. So, or they scream at all the women. I mean, I don't know, one or the other, right? They become more proud or more humble. So, so what this verse is saying, that your self-realization is dependent on mercy. It's not dependent on other things. So you maybe you have a better body for self-realization, or a lesser body, or a better brain or a lesser brain, or better birth or a lesser birth, or you've got a head start, you're born in a Hindu family, you already believed all this. That's all great, fine, but it's not the cause. It's just, it's an advantage. You can start, okay, Kishori Mati's going to go to the Olympics. They're going to do the 100-yard dash, and they're going to give her a 10-yard lead. She's going to end up last. She's not, I don't know, aren't you? You're going to end up last. You're not, unless you're used to running. So if she's not running, what's the good of the lead? It's not going to help, right? She'll end up last. She's running against professional runners. And the last time she ran is when she was late for her bus and she ran to get it. But other than that, she doesn't run. So it's something like that. It's like, that's not going to help. It's going to help a little bit, but without Balaram's mercy, it's not ultimately going to help. So therefore, the body has nothing to do with the body. It has everything to do with the mercy, right? The Prabhupada understood that clearly. Otherwise, he wouldn't have even left India to attempt to give it to non-Indians. Now, one interesting thing I find so interesting, which underscores this, maybe you won't find it interesting. Maybe you'll find like, oh, that's not interesting. But in every memory video of Prabhupada, they ask, how did you become a devotee? And if you listen to a lot of memory videos, if you heard one story, you've heard them all. They're all identical. Well, when I was like 3 years old, I was, looking through National Geographic, and I saw India and I saw Sadhu, and I go, that's what I want to be. That's okay. Not exactly like that, but similar, When I was 17, I was asking questions and I was meditating and doing yoga and reading books on India and philosophy and, looking for a guru. It's like, what did you know about a guru? You're only 17. So everybody's saying that, and it's asking questions like, why am I here? And what life is all about, and what about death, and all for the whole philosophy, right? So what's interesting about it is the men and the women have the exact same story. They say the exact same things. It's not like the women are like, well, I was looking for flowers, pink flowers, and I saw pink flowers in the temples. I just walked in. No, that's like men would think like, well, you like the smell the incense. That's why you became a devotee. No, but the women were like all the same philosophy. It was all going through. Like I was asking questions, wondering why, reading books, going to hear spiritual talk. It's exactly the same. So it shows that on the spiritual platform, it's the same. And so that's the point that's being made here, that it's not because you have the right body, you can become self-realized and you have the wrong body. It's like, sorry, next life. Maybe if you're lucky, you'll get a male body in your next life. Well, how do I get a male body? Marry a man and think of him when you die. Then you get a male body. So that's not our process. I mean, that was a process previously, but now you have a guru. So you think of your guru, think of Prabhupada, think of Krishna. So, So this underscores the point Prabhupada's making that through mercy, you get the realization, and that mercy is available for everyone, and it's not based on the body. And if that weren't true, Prabhupada would have not come to preach in the West because it would have been useless, right? So I think it's such a, and our whole, the whole basis of our movement was founded in this principle that anyone can be Krishna conscious. If they follow the process, they'll get the mercy, and the mercy will do everything. So I'll continue reading. So that Balaram comes as Nityananda Prabhu. Balaram hoila nitai. Therefore, we must take shelter of Balaram. This song has been sung by Narottam Das Thakur. I was listening to this one godbrother, Pragosh, and in the interview, they're asking him, how'd you become a devotee? He says, I have no idea. One day I was in Maya, one day I wasn't. I don't know how that happened. It's like, in other words, if I look at it logically, like how could I, just an all-American boy, a football player, this, that, and the next, and then, the next day I'm on the street, wearing diapers, jumping up and down, and shave my head during the hippie period. It was like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, and you look back and you go, how did that happen? I got no idea. Don't ask me. Of course, we know how it happened. It happened by mercy. That's the point. But his point was, if I look at it logically, if I look at it step by step, sometimes it doesn't make sense. I was in Maya one day and I got out of Maya. Like, how did I get out of Maya? Like, it doesn't make sense. It's just like, I've been in Maya forever. And then one day I get out of it and I move in the temple. Like, and I look back and I go, that's it. My life, past life is finished. So that's the effect of mercy. We have seen this many, many times. I don't know if you've seen this, but I've seen many, many times, especially during Prabhupada's time. Someone will become a devotee. And like a week later, if you met that person, you would think that person's been a devotee their whole life. You can't tell. Is he a Guru Kuli? Yeah. You can't tell. It's just like the mercy is so powerful. It just goes through them in such a way that it's like now they're a devotee through and through. At least that's the existential experience. And they've just been a devotee a few weeks. That's the effect. Have you ever seen that? Someone becomes a devotee, it's like they always were. It's just like, oh, they finally found their way back home and they're back in. It's like they left the ashram, in their last life, and now they waited 20 years. I mean, that could be true also. But still, it doesn't minimize the power of mercy. So I'll continue reading. This song has been sung by Narottam Das Thakur. But we don't know what the song is, because this sounds like Prabhupada's talking about the song. Oh, yes, we do. He's saying that Balaram has come as Nityananda, that song. That now Balaram and Krishna and Balaram have come as Chaitanya Nitai. Nitai Padakamala Koti. Maybe that's a different song. Koti Chandra Shushitala. The feet of Nityananda are like millions of moons, soothing like millions of moons. If we take shelter of Nityananda Prabhu, then we get peace. Peace. Koti Chandra Shushitala. Just like in daytime, especially in the summer season, we become very much exasperated, and the moon comes and we get cold. But at night, in the evening, as soon as there is moonshine, we become very much satisfied. That's funny, because moonshine was the name of liquor made illegally in America. Did you know that? As soon as we get moonshine, everything's, some people may take it. See, Prabhupada said it's okay to drink liquor. It's right there. As soon as we get moonshine. No, he means the moon. Or how do you know? Let's have a debate. This is Bhakta Burfi, debating. No, Prabhupada means liquor. It cools you off. Yeah. Okay. So do we have any? I'm just going to have to go down to see if we have comments. We have comments. and then we'll come back. So we have comments from Krishna Karshni. Can we, Ananda? We are Ananda by nature. So we want to experience happiness. What if a devotee is not experiencing happiness doing devotional service? Then, you know, if a devotee's not happy, yeah, I was thinking of something. Sometimes I was just talking with a devotee today, and the devotee experiences great happiness doing devotional service, but she's not experiencing great happiness in her material condition of life. So sometimes you could kind of misunderstand. You know, the material side of your life is difficult, and it's quite depressing. And so overall, you may feel depressed. That's possible. It's possible that you're doing devotional service, but your whole attitude is wrong. And so, you know, you can't, it's like, you know, like sometimes there's somebody who's amazing and everybody loves, but someone has a bad relationship with him. And then we normally think, oh, there must be something wrong with that person because everybody likes so-and-so. Everyone has a good relationship. So, you know, that we may want to look at, well, is there something wrong with the attitude? Something wrong with the execution of bhakti? Maybe something wrong with their sadhana, something wrong along the way that's causing them to not experience happiness. And they should find out what it is. And there could be many reasons for that. But we've also talked about this before, that sometimes devotees give up too much too fast. You know, it's like, I could give a bad example and I won't give it because it won't relate to you, but let me think of another example. Well, maybe let's give an example of a motorcycle. I mean, the women won't relate to this, but you can understand. Okay. So let's say Anuradha has a motor scooter and she goes to work on her motor scooter. And then she sees a Harley Davidson. I don't know if they have Harley Davidsons. The Harley Davidsons are American motorcycles. So they're like big and loud and they're iconic. You know, it's like if you have a Harley Davidson, it's like, you know, it's like a Mercedes Benz or something, right? So let's say Anuradha sees the Harley Davidson. And she goes, wow, that'd be cool. You know, I could get on the freeway, I get on the highway and go like 100 miles an hour. And I say, Anuradha, maybe you should just get a little bigger motorcycle instead of going from a motor scooter to a Harley Davidson, because you're going from like 50 cc's to 1,000 cc engine, and you just touch it and you go from 0 to 60 in like 4 seconds. So, you know, you may not be ready for that. So something like that in Krishna consciousness, sometimes people who are not ready to ride the Harley Davidson, they're only ready for the scooter, they jump on the Harley Davidson. And they're not going to like it because it's really heavy and it's really fast and it's a different beast. Shujan will like it because he's a big guy. Get on that Harley and go, yeah. Vroom. In India, they have Royal Enfields, but I only think they all go up to 500 cc's. So, right? But Harley Davidsons, I think they go bigger. You know, everything in America is bigger. They don't need to be that big, but they just go bigger. So let's say Shujan is like, no problem. I don't even need to learn to ride a scooter. I know how to ride a bicycle. I check out the Harley. I watch people ride. Yeah, no problem. I'm a tough guy. And he gets on it and he just rides it. So for him, it's like, yeah, this is fun. For someone else, it's like, this is scary. Get me off of this. So sometimes I think people bite off more than they can chew in Krishna consciousness. And so Anuradha sells her scooter. She gets on the Harley and she realizes, this is scary. I don't want it. Now she has no Harley Davidson and no scooter. She has nothing. So some people do that in bhakti. They like give up everything, jump on the Harley, and then end up with nothing. So, you know, The Krishna question, he's saying, why is a devotee looking for happiness outside of Krishna consciousness? Here's the problem, ladies and gentlemen, my dear devotees. I figured out how to get around the Prabhus and Matajis, or Prabhus and Prabhurinis, or Prabhus and Prabhis, or Prabhus and Unprabhus, or Mamas and Papas. I was trying to be politically correct, but none of that sounded right. So I just say, my dear devotees, Krishna Kanta Gopalini and I figured we were going back and forth, like how to be politically correct in the highest way. And we said, well, adopt Satyanandan Swami's, my dear devotees. That's like everybody's included, without all in one big family. So if I say Prabhus and Matajis to the Westerners, and the Westerners go, you're calling me a Mataji, you're not calling me a Prabhu. Well, I'm not going to take that. So we get some of that. Of course, Shrujans is like, why would you want to be called a Prabhu? That's a masculine word. But that's another story for another time. So what was I saying? I completely forgot. In my quest to be funny, I forgot what I was saying. Oh yeah. So why are devotees looking for happiness outside? So here's the problem. It's interesting, Tattva, it's interesting philosophical point. I'll ask another question, Krishna question. Why don't we want to die? And we know the answers because aside from it's not fun, the real reason is we're eternal. That's why we don't want to die, right? Because it's so unnatural, isn't it? Like dying, the whole idea of like dying it doesn't make sense to us because we're eternal. Who likes to be in ignorance? Well, there's a few people because then they don't have to think about their problems. But generally, we want knowledge. We want to know. Knowing is, we're all over, internet looking at TED Talks and this talk and that talk. We want to know, right, Gabriela? Gabriela she likes to know. She's academic, so that's academics love to know, isn't it? It's just for the sake of knowing. It's just like the mind is filled up with information that's interesting, stimulating. So we want to know because that's our nature. Chit, you're full of chit. Hare Krishna. You're all full of chit. And we're coming up with a t-shirt that's going to say that. You're full of chit. So we're all full of chit, which means consciousness or knowledge. And that's why knowledge is attractive. So you're also full of bliss. And that's why we want to be happy. But that is a problem because if you don't get happiness, ananda, then you're going to look for it somewhere else. As I've often said, Krishna Karshani, you've heard me say, if there's nothing to eat, you'll eat burnt toast. Isn't it? Like if you're really hungry, if you're really desperate, you'll eat anything. Our stove broke and we have to buy a new stove, and we're looking to buy the new stove, and we took out the old stove because we thought a new stove was coming, but it didn't fit. So now we haven't had a stove for a while. So it's hard to cook when you don't have a stove, isn't it? Yeah, it's really hard. Unless you build a fire, but it's like 30 plus degrees outside. So we didn't think about building a fire. That is also an alternative. So, so it comes time to eat. Jonathan, what's to eat? Look in the fridge, leftovers. You go through, and so you're doing the same thing every day, looking through the same leftovers. They're getting less and less. And you're getting hungrier and hungrier every day. and you're like you get hungry enough, you'll eat anything, whatever it is. There's an old rotten mango, I'll eat that. I got to eat something. So that's the problem, because it's our nature to be blissful. It's like we just go for happiness wherever we can find it, and it's unfortunate. What I think the most unfortunate thing for all of us is to go for happiness that we gave up previously out of hitting a wall with it, or just being frustrated with it, or understanding it's not even being frustrated. It could be painful. Sometimes happiness is painful, so-called happiness. Giving it up and then not finding it in Krishna consciousness, then having to look for it elsewhere. So my philosophy is somehow or other, find your bliss in Krishna consciousness. Whatever it takes, find it. If eating rasgullas 3 times a day is the way you'll stay in Krishna consciousness, then all I can say is go for it. Something. You have to find something. We were talking about this the other day, and I was saying how I like chanting shlokas. I get inspired when I chant shlokas. Some of you may like that. Some of you get inspired when you do kirtan. Like Krishna Karshini loves to kirtan. She likes to cook. Different devotees have different talents. Anuradha likes to cook. They do different things. Gabriella likes to teach. Kishori Mani, what do you like to do? Design. You like to design. You like to teach also. You like to design. Yeah. And Shujan, what do you like to engineer? What's your major?
Eat, Prabhuji, eat.
What? Eat. Oh, you like to
Eating.
eat. Oh, yeah. Okay. He's qualified. As long as you eat prasadam, you'll be okay. Yeah. I've told stories about how eating has kept me in Krishna consciousness, on certain days. So it's very, very important that we find our happiness in Krishna consciousness. I think part of the problem sometimes is, like what I said, a devotee doesn't find happiness for themselves, they find it in pleasing Krishna. So then the devotee may think, well, if I did this in Krishna consciousness, it will make me happy, but I won't do it because I shouldn't do it because it's sense gratification. And then they leave Krishna consciousness and then they just do it anyway, except they don't do it for Krishna, because as Krishna said, what's the use of repressing yourself? You're just going to do it anyway, but do it for me. He told that to Arjuna. Like Arjuna said, I'll become a Brahmin and I'll beg. And Krishna said, yeah, right. Get over it, Arjuna. You're never going to be a Brahmin. You're not a Brahmin. As soon as there's a fight, you're going to jump in. Yeah. The Brahmin's killing somebody. Oh no, what are we going to do? So the whole point is, whatever that nature is, see how you can engage in Krishna consciousness. So instead of thinking, well, it's not good, I shouldn't do this because I like it or it'll make me happy, you can also think, this is good, I should do it because it'll make me happy in Krishna consciousness, which is a better place to be happy than out of Krishna consciousness. I mean, if you have 2 choices to be happy in Krishna consciousness or out, which one would you take? Obviously, to be happy in Krishna consciousness. So that's the idea. Anuradha says, one of the things that inspired me is to see the like of all the Prabhupada disciples. Yeah. See the like? What did you mean to say? See the video?
The way they change, like as
How
you
they
were
change
saying,
their life.
yeah, like completely one day to another, and they were just the body.
Yeah. Harley Davidson. Okay, now you all learned. What did you learn in class today? I learned they have motorcycles in America called Harley Davidsons. Now I'm inspired to get one. That's what I learned. Anything else? No, I can't remember anything else. Okay. Isn't class like that sometimes? Selective memory. Krishna Karshini says, when I visit the temple, I see that those who live there are not happy, but those who are visiting look more happy. That's because they get better prasadam outside. That is always intriguing for me. Well, if you come to Gainesville and you go to Krishna House and you see all the devotees there, you'll see they're all very happy. So a lot depends on the temple and the Sangha and the association. And it also depends on, why is somebody in the temple? Why is he living in the temple? Because he has no other place to live. That's why. Well, yeah. So he's not happy, because he didn't choose to live there. He just didn't have a choice. How come he still lives there? He's too lazy to move out. He's too old to move out. He doesn't know where to go. So yeah. Temple is not meant for everyone, especially permanently. Of course, everyone can live in a temple for a while. That's good. But it will also depend on the temple. So it may indicate not a problem with the devotee, but a problem with the temple, right? Because I think there are some temples, I think, if we lived at, maybe none of us would be happy to live there. Do you know in New Vrindavan, what they gave you in the old days, what you had for breakfast was oat water. That was breakfast. Not even oats, just oat water, like tea made out of oats. Because the leader there read that was very healthy. So, you might not be happy having oat water for breakfast, right? Isn't it? When I was a brahmachari in Los Angeles, they took the handle off the hot water because you're supposed to take a cold shower. And even in Los Angeles in the winter, it gets a bit chilly in the mornings. So that means the water was like, I don't have to translate to Fahrenheit. The water was like 7 degrees Fahrenheit. I mean, Celsius, something like that, around 7. In the midst, like January, it would be like 7 degrees. So that's a bit cold, isn't it? So not everybody's ready for a 7-degree shower every morning. And you couldn't come back in the evening and have a warm shower because there was no warm water. And you slept on the floor in a room with, I would say, about 50 other men. So it was like, if one wasn't snoring, the other was. So finally, one would stop. You can't go to sleep because he's snoring. Finally, he stops. You go to sleep, and the next one starts snoring. So you don't sleep all night if you can't sleep with snoring people. So you lay there for 6 hours, and then you get up and take an ice cold shower. So I did it. I was fine with it. I loved it. Go out on Sankirtan. It's fantastic. But not everybody can do that. So it's understandable that it's not for everybody, right? So that's one answer, possible reason. Okay, here it comes, everyone. The real truth is coming from Jyotirmai. Say it like it is, Jyotirmai. I'm gonna have to make a video on this statement. Actually, I never had an issue of being a woman before I joined ISKCON. Never been so discriminated, or at least people trying to make me feel less for being a woman than the last 3 years. Ah! That's exactly what we don't want to hear. And we heard it now. What do we do about it? What do we do about it? Well, fortunately, there's a lot of men in ISKCON who are sensitive to this problem. Unfortunately, there are a lot who are not, who may perpetrate this problem. And some of it is done inadvertently, right? It's just, just reading a purport. I didn't say anything, I just read the purport. And all the women are sitting in class crying, like, what? I'm innocent. I just read the purport. Or I just read the verse, But we have to know how to explain these things contextually within the light of the mission of Prabhupada so that they're not misunderstood. But it's true, and something has to be done about this. All right. Yeah. I never had an issue being a woman until I joined ISKCON. Wow, what a statement. I'm not going to make a t-shirt like that. I might get in trouble, but Jyotirmai, if you want to make it, I mean, you're Greek, that would go fine with you, right? You make a t-shirt like that, walk around, Mayapur, go on a mission. Yeah, it's not going to go over well in Mayapur, I'll tell you. Yeah. Well, if anyone tries to make you feel less, just don't worry about it. I know it's easy to say that. I'm not a woman, so I don't know. It's easy for me to say it, but some people try to make me feel less also. Everyone has a right to their opinion, Okay, so we have another quote. Where's this next one from? Oh, it continues. It's supposed to continue. Oh, yeah. So it continues. Oh, I got thrown off because it was another. All day's labor and fatigue is immediately moved. But if you're in the moon, in the moonshine, just stand under the moonshine. Don't drink the moonshine. Okay, then you'll be fine. So Nitai Pada Kamala, the shade of Nityananda Prabhu's lotus feet, is Koti Chandra Shushitala, as pleasing as 1 crore of moonshine. One moonshine gives us so much pleasure. So if we want actually peace of mind, if we want to be free from this material fatiguement, I don't think that's a word. It is now, though. Prabhupada said it. Put it in the dictionary. Prabhupada said it. Then we must take the shelter of Nityananda Prabhu. You know, the disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta said that. If he like made up a word or something or spelled it differently, put it in the dictionary. Dictionary is wrong. Guru Maharaj is right. It's a lot of faith, but a little on the fanatical side, but there's some philosophy behind it. Nityananda Prabhu is the strength, spiritual strength, and without spiritual strength, you cannot approach Krishna. Nayam Atma Pravachena Labhya. It's another shloka. Simply by talking nonsense. Nayam Atma Pravachalena Labhya. If you're a good speaker, that does not mean you'll understand yourself. Nab Medhaya. Neither by good brain. Because you have got very good brain, you'll understand Krishna? No. Nayam Atma Pravachanena Labhya Na Medhaya. Medhaya means intelligence. Na Bahuna Shrutena. If you think that you're a very good scholar, university degree holder, then you'll understand. No. So 3 strikes and you're out. Good speaker, good brain, good scholar. No, not your qualification. So you must have spiritual strength. That source of spiritual strength is Balaram, Krishna's next manifestation. Prakash Vigraha. Krishna is manifesting himself through Balaram. So we have to take shelter of Nityananda Prabhu. Nitai Padakamala Koti Chandra Shushitala Chichaya Jagata Jura. I was Bengali in my last life, but I just found out I was a Rissan in my last life. Oh, I'm so depressed. I thought I was Bengali. It's close next to Bengal. Well, maybe they spoke Bengali in Orissa in those days. The whole world is suffering, but if you want peace, then you take the shelter of Nityananda Prabhu. So, so this verse Prabhupada's quoting, it's a different verse. And it's making the same point, that the point I was making before, like all your advantages are not advantages if you don't have the mercy of Nityananda. Like it's sometimes it's hard for us because we meet somebody and they're really nice. And then you ever have that? You just like had a bad experience with a devotee, and then you go to the grocery store and the cashier is so nice. And you go, I wish this. Everyone was like the cashier. She's so nice. So it's something like that where Prabhupada's saying, well, it's not just by being nice. I mean, that's being nice is nice. But until you become a devotee, your being nice doesn't really, it's not going to help you become Krishna conscious in and of itself, right? Or did you ever meet someone who's like so intelligent and you think, oh, if this person became a devotee, they'd probably convince every atheist in the universe to become a devotee. They're so intelligent. So we all meet people like that. I wish if he became a devotee, she became a devotee, she's so smart, you could do so much, you could organize this, write this, paint this. So much talent out there. And all this verse is saying, that's good, but that's not going to make you Krishna conscious. And so what's the philosophy behind it? The philosophy behind it is that Krishna consciousness comes through causeless mercy. It doesn't come through any material achievement because it's something spiritual. You know, one time they asked Prabhupada, why can't LSD help your spiritual life? And Prabhupada said, because it's material. And something material cannot help you. Something material cannot help something spiritual. So just like intelligence, or just like LSD, or just like learning, etc., it's all useful to apply in Krishna service. It's all an advantage if you become a devotee and you have it. But if you're not a devotee, it's in and of itself, it can't help you. That's the point. That you need mercy. You need fundamental Balaram's mercy. Right? You have Balaram's mercy, you're good. And that's why the example is given, which is, it's a funny example, and I'll explain why. But the example is given that the gopis weren't great scholars. They were simple village girls, but they loved Krishna. So what's the goal of all your scholarship? To love Krishna, right? Like Mahaprabhu met the sannyasis of Benares. What's the use of studying Vedanta? You guys are like going nowhere, with your study of Vedanta. I'm chanting Hare Krishna, I'm getting love of Krishna. You're studying Vedanta, they're like going around in circles. You're not making progress. So, not that they weren't intelligent. So it's like that. And in fact, if you're intelligent, it can become a huge obstacle because you become proud, right? You think you know everything. God cannot exist. It's impossible. It's preposterous. And I have 16 degrees to show you, to prove it to you, although you can't prove anything. So that's the problem. You become so proud of what you know that you don't realize you don't know a lot. And you think you know things you don't. So anyway, that's the point. So the last thing Prabhupada says, no, if you want to understand, you have to have spiritual strength. That source of strength, spiritual strength, is Balaram, Krishna's next manifestation. We read that, right? Okay. Okay. Right. So today we learned there's a lot of unhappy Hare Krishnas, and there's a lot of women who've realized they're the body after joining this community. Two very unfortunate things. And Gabriela says, about Jyotirmaya's experience. In universities, it is very common for classes on inclusion and prevention of discrimination and exclusion to be held. Yes, and also in corporations, right? But you've already started in the university. So that people educate themselves and can eliminate and transform their prejudices and habits of discrimination. It might be useful for devotees to have classes on these topics. Yes. We are discussing that in our group. We have a group in America that's discussing such topics. And one of the, I don't know if the group said this, but somebody said this. And I think they said this in the group. They said exactly what you said, that people are being, like, I think a lot of people, our generation, is like, why is everybody so uptight about political correctness and egalitarianism and this life matters and that life? Of course, Black lives matters, but unborn babies' lives don't. That's another issue. But why everybody's so concerned? And she said, because this is what they're learning in university. We didn't learn this at all. So then I said, oh, that's why it's on everyone's mind. And so she was saying, yeah, it's on everyone's mind because they're learning about it. And we have to be aware of that this generation coming up is coming up with this mood. You have to be a bit sensitive, otherwise they'll misunderstand us. And young people, when they're making a decision about religion, one of the things they're going to look at is how that religion treats women. And if they don't like the way it treats women, they won't like the religion, even though they like it. That's unfortunate. It's a reality. So it's not that we're such diehards, like, who cares for them? Let them go to hell. They go, no, but they'll become devotees. It just, don't put the women in the back of the temple and give them like 6 inches and the men get the rest of the temple, because most women are not going to join when they see that. Right, Kishore Mani? Yeah, you're right. So in other words, don't give them a reason to not like ISKCON. Right? That's the point. Say, what is our philosophy? Women in the back. Well, where's the shloka? I never read the shloka, women in the back. Well, the women and men should be separated. Okay, I read that, but it didn't say front and back. I mean, really, if you look at Indian culture, if you want to do front and back, it's the women in the front and the men in the back. Did you know that? So, where the front and back come, the women in the back, yeah, that's kind of an American idea, I think. So, yeah, you have to be sensitive to these things. It's a good point. So, you all understand all these things anyway, but this discussion is just there for everyone who is interacting with the public to be aware that this is how, these are the sensitivities the public has that we need to be aware of, and how you want to process those sensitivities. You will decide, but there are people who will be devotees. There's no question, but there may be a few things that could disturb them on the path and make it difficult or impossible, where otherwise they would be. And so we have to be sensitive to that. It just makes common sense. There's a lot of things that become controversial that I don't understand why they are controversial, because they're just common sense. And I think that's something that, for me, it's a bigger problem than the controversy itself, is that the fact that it is controversial. Like this, what I just said, is controversial for some people. No, that's all your Western. Listen, I'm like, I just thought it was common sense, not Western, just like, don't discriminate, be nice to people, don't judge them, isn't that like what Brahmins do, Isn't that, no, it's our tradition is this and that, and don't Westernize it and contaminate, it's like, no, we're talking about just making people comfortable. And so sometimes they have these discussions, and I think, the problem is not the issue. The problem is that we're even having a discussion. Like, why? This is just like, do everything you can to inspire people and make them feel comfortable, right? Sure, John, is that common sense? We have to get an Indian's opinion here, because we're all Westerners, so we all think the same. But I guess you young Indians think like us, right? We contaminated you, right? You're just like us now. More or less. Your parents are hitting you on the head. Don't be like these other Westerners. And you're like, you're old fashioned. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. Go on Facebook. Get cool, mama. Like, isn't it? Like, yeah, something like that. So you guys are finished also. Indian culture is over. This generation has destroyed it. How to understand that the mercy on us is due to Nityananda Prabhu or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or any devotee. Because Mahaprabhu came to give mercy. And that's his mission, to give mercy to unqualified people. How do we understand? Go look at your qualifications for bhakti. Then you'll understand. And look at your standing in bhakti, how well you're doing. Then you'll understand what mercy is. It's like you're not a good student and you get into IIT, and then they give you good grades. It's like, oh, that's a lot of mercy there, right? And you were just sleeping in class, your brain, you couldn't understand a thing. But they try to help you, so you got some basic understanding and they give you top marks. That's mercy. They gave you A for effort. Okay. from Achyutananda Das. Common sense is not so common. Yeah. That's the problem. But also what's common sense for one is not common sense for another. So, yeah, okay. Now it's time to digest everything we said. Oh yeah, you pray to Nityananda constantly. We as members of Kali Yuga, card-carrying members of Kali Yuga, feel especially attracted to Nityananda because his mercy knows no limit. One time a devotee left ISKCON and they tried to bring him back. He was a sannyasi and he was going farther and farther, or further and further. Is it farther and farther or further? You're all like, I need, it's funny. One time Nadia corrected me. She's Russian. She corrected my English. I go, you know English better than I. Farther, we go farther and farther. He was going farther and farther away from Krishna consciousness. And he ended up associating with a yogi, kind of bogus yogi. And so the devotee who was trying to bring him back just gave up. And he went to Prabhupada and said, I tried to bring him back, but this is just too much. He's gone over, what's the saying? Over the top or something. He's just gone over the top now. He's associating with this totally bogus yogi. And Prabhupada said, don't give up. You don't understand the forgiveness of Nityananda Prabhu is unlimited. See, farther is for distance. Yeah. Now what's further? You go. Farther is the proper. You got farther and farther away. And I will go further in the future. Is that it? Today's English lesson. Further is future tense. Farther is present tense. And what's past tense? I went farther. Okay. So we learned that about Harley Davidsons. We learned farther and further. And we learned that if you join ISKCON and you're a woman, you will definitely have self-realization that you're a woman. Yeah, that's what we learned today. We're giving a summary for Deepa. She came late. That's the summary of today's class. We're just joking, but we did learn those things. And you're asking, how do you know about the mercy? Well, just look at your life. Your life is a personification of mercy. Like, what were you doing 5 years ago, Shri John? What were you thinking about? What video games were you playing? What books were you reading? I won't ask you any more questions, but you know where we're going with it, all the things you were doing. And the fact that you could stop doing those things, that's manifestation of Nityananda's mercy, that we can break these habits, isn't it? That we could chant our rounds every day. That's, these things can't happen without mercy. That we can be some kind of exemplary devotees. How do you do that without mercy? Right? Okay. From Merriam-Webster, some usage guides teach that farther refers to physical distance and further to figurative distance, but it might be better to let your ear guide you. Oh, okay. So we can say whatever we want. I like that. I'm very spontaneous. So I should have said further then, right? He got further and further away from Krishna and farther away from the temple. Something like that. But if anyone questions you on further and farther, just send them to Marian and she'll tell them either is good. There's a lot of words like that either one is good. And they'll use one word more in England and one word more in America. And in Spanish, they'll probably use the American version, the US version. Okay, so we will talk about Lord Nityananda's mercy in relation to japa. As one devotee told me, he said, when I chant japa, I feel Lord Nityananda, I pray and I feel Lord Nityananda's mercy entering every cell of my being. And that's what I pray for when I chant. And it's amazing. So maybe we'll try that today. So I I think, should I make you the host, Anuradha, and you can hit some buttons and do what you have to do?
Yes, Gurudev, I can do it.
I have to tell you a story. This is really funny because I was giving up my exalted position as the host to a disciple. So now my disciple is in a more exalted position than I am. Do you know this story where one of Prabhupada's disciples, Achyutananda Prabhu,